Good evening, Miami. Welcome to another episode of Fast Break. I would like to apologize beforehand due to some weather problems. My internet might be cutting off. I'm trying and I can't find any provider that's going to be sufficient enough for Fast. So, without further ado, my man Neil Cordero's in the house. How you doing, Neil?
Doing good, man. I'm excited to be back on and talk a little Miami Heat with the Miami natives. This is going to be a great time.
Hey, man. Rob's not going to be able to be with us tonight. Justin, I believe, is still traveling. He might pop up. We don't know for sure. Clutch is in the other on the other side of the pond, probably sleeping right now. But we are on to is it 16 of Dame Watch or 13? Hold on. Let me do a quick check on Clutch.
Yeah,
Hold
let's
on.
get that
Data
official
win.
number here because who
Let's
knows?
get the official number. Hold on. Let me see what day. Because I look forward to Clutch. He's the only one that keeps me up to date with day 17 of Dame
17.
Watch.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We haven't talked in a while, Neil. I have obviously I've expressed my points. I've overexpressed my points. I'm gonna give the floor to you. What is your take on this Dame situation, and when do you feel there will be a resolution?
I mean, I think I'm pretty impressed with the front office and how they've been handling it. It seems that they, have not fallen for any of the smoke screens. They understand completely what their leverage is in the situation. They're not trying to pit against themselves. They know that their offer, it's essentially the only game in town, and they're not going to give Portland more than they have to. So I think that the Miami Heat have really done a great job of just capitalizing on this, player empowerment situation that's going on with, players, star players being able to control where they go, even without no trade clauses. And, when we look at Damian Lillard again, he only wants to go to Miami. He's expressed that he's not going to be happy playing anywhere else. His agent is doing his job. Dame is doing his job. They've got the media members that are, pushing Dame's agenda out there, doing their job. So the Miami Heat are in a great position right now. They don't have to sweat it, and could the longer this goes, could that affect what the Miami Heat do? Maybe, right? But even then, I still think great position to be in, and glad the front office is sticking to its guns.
And you touched on a solid point, and I made a comment on Twitter. I forgot, I don't know who it was that they were talking about. They made a comment about Miami's front office getting desperate about going to training camp, and I kind of responded with like, "You don't know Miami Heat culture without telling me you don't know Miami culture." I'm like, this front office doesn't overreact to things like that, and this is where the difference comes in an inexperienced front office in Cronin. I'm not saying he's an inexperienced human being. This might be the first situation he's in where a player kind of demands a trade and comes out public. I do happen to believe that the only reason this came out public is because it wasn't handled privately between Dame's people and the Blazers organization, which is how typically these things come out. We understand how we went through the KD saga last year, Kyrie Irving, they made up, they came back. Eventually, both of them got traded in season, and the Nets seem to be going off in the right direction, and then they rebound again and they get traded off. What I see in this situation, and I've said it countless times, the longer this drags out, the worse it looks on Cronin and the Blazers front office. He might not be there to oversee this whole rebuild because the Blazers are, I believe, for sale. Paul Allen passed away. It's between, I believe, the children. So there is some turmoil there. There is a primary owner, but I do believe they're trying to sell the team. So if you're going to go young, this is the time to do it. I understand from a perspective where his ego could be hurt, but when you're a professional in this industry and you're dealing with a player of Dame Lillard's stature, and the fact that it's not a James Harden situation in Philadelphia, James Harden demanded a trade. I understand James Harden worked with Daryl Morey last year and for a lesser amount, so he can feel some type of way with Daryl. That relationship might be broken, but Harden has been through this already 2 times with the Rockets, with the Nets. Dame Lillard has been a model citizen. He's carried that franchise for 11 years. And this whole thing about the narrative due to the fact that it's Miami. If Damian Lillard would have said, "I want to go to LA," we wouldn't be having these discussions. We wouldn't be, "Oh, why is he only demanding one team?" The fact that Woj keeps on playing, what Dan Lebertar was amazing the other day. It's echoed what Ethan has said from Fire Sports. There is no back and forth right now. You cannot. I mean, you're an expert at this, Neil. You're a lawyer. If you're already proving your point and all the facts are on your side, there's no need to go back and forth when you've already laid out everything with facts. You can deliberate amongst your peers. You can chit chat here and there. But in this industry, when you're not going to outbid yourself, you might throw in another player to get the deal done, but it's someone that you were willing to give up in the first place because you just want to close it out. I don't see the Heat, like you said, freaking out and front office caving in. So you're playing a game of chicken, and the Heat have been playing this game of chicken for over 25 years here in Miami. You understand that you're going to get if you've seen Miami's track record, they've gotten every disgruntled superstar at their price. Even Goran. Goran made it nasty in Phoenix when he wanted to leave, and that was probably the direction of the Heat. Making nasty will get you. I do believe there might be another level of nastiness from Dame in regards to sitting down and having a press conference or an interview. That could be done, but he's pushing off to the. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a moment where this is going to happen when Cronin, probably from ownership, don't doubt this. It could be from Blazers ownership that has a say on Cronin. They're like, we need to get this done because people don't realize this, and I'll give it to you. Relationships are important. How you treat players now, especially a player, I'm not talking about a three-player or a rookie that you're trading as part of a deal. No, this is a player that for 11 years has carried your franchise. You've given him, yes, two max contracts, but this player has earned you an insane amount of revenue, has brought in an insane amount of revenue for you. So it's a win-win for both players. It comes a time where you need to separate. I always use the Westbrook situation with the Thunder. I thought that ended perfectly. Both parties were happy with the decision and with the return they got. So what do you see down the line, Neil, that this could affect Portland if you go into training camp with Damian Lillard on your roster and you're set in stone? I'm not going to trade him to the Miami Heat because I don't want to. First of all, it's not productive because you still have him under contract. He's not going to be playing, and you're not going to have to close the chapter. You haven't been able to move on from a situation. I'll ask you first in Portland, and then also on the flip side, we'll talk about my question if this happens. So this goes into training camp. How do you handle this if you're the Blazers?
Well, you touched on a really good point, which is that, the way that Cronin is kind of handling this is, he obviously is on the worst side of the negotiation because, they don't have any leverage here at all. And the reason they don't have any leverage is because there are no other teams that are coming to the table because they know that Damian Lillard doesn't want to play for them and they don't want to get stuck in this quagmire themselves. So Cronin is out there trying to, use any media member he can to try to drum up some sort of leverage to get Miami to bid against themselves. And what ends up happening when you do that for too long of a period of time is it kind of starts looking embarrassing. You never want to be seen in a really desperate, like in a desperate light. Like you never want to look desperate in negotiations because then the offer might actually just get worse, because once the other side starts to realize, wow, like
that plea deal, they're going to pull it back real quick.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you know what? Like, we gave you this offer, and if you don't accept it by 7 p.m. today, we're pulling this player, and then you're like, well, then it looks really, really bad for you. I do believe eventually ownership is going to have to step in. I think it's probably in Cronin's best interest if he wants to keep his job. Because I don't think a lot of people are talking about this. A lot of the media members out there are saying, oh, well, Cronin could lose his job if this doesn't work out. That's fair. But what Cronin has to understand is it's already over. There isn't,
Exactly.
if you had leverage to get a better deal, like realistic leverage to get a better deal, then fine. Like that'd be one thing. You made a deal that you shouldn't have made. But like there's nobody else here. So the longer that you push this off, the worse that you make the organization look. And then we start talking about other free agents. I mean, who wants to go to a desperate situation, Like, who really wants to go to a situation where, like, the GM, was basically begging the other team to do
Other
something,
teams.
for. I mean, it's like if Cronin in the beginning had been like, okay, like there's no one else, this is the deal, let's move on, and been confident about it, maybe other free agents would have been like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, they had to do that, but they're confident, they've got strong will. They'll come back, they'll build a winner. But like when you start doing stuff like this, other players and people that might want to work there, coaches, assistant coaches, they look at you and they're kind of like, does this guy know what he's doing? Like, do I really want to work there? Because it seems like he's completely misread this situation and now he's begging, and I don't want to be a part of a downtrodden organization. Like, when you put yourself in such a negative light for too long a period of time, it almost certainly will backfire. So I think it would be in Cronin's best interest, and I don't really say this as a Miami Heat fan, I mean, I also say this as a lawyer. Like, if you look at the Miami Heat's perspective, like, they have the nuts essentially, right? I mean, they're sitting at the table and they have the best hand, and they know that if they take this to trial, they're going to win. So then why are you going to sell it? Why do you sell that case if you know you're going to win? You don't. You say, hey, like, based on my experience, this is what I know I'm going to get. I know nobody else at the table. I'm giving you already fair compensation for somebody that is disgruntled and wants out. I mean, you're getting a young player who is a 20-point per game scorer, who has a high ceiling offensively, and you're getting first-round picks to build up your organization again, and you're getting a three-point shooter specialist in a time when three-point shooters are really important. There's no one else that's making any offer to you, like, this is fair. And if you don't take it, then yeah, like, let's see what happens to your team then. Because, the longer Cronin goes, let's say this gets into training camp and Dame sits out. Okay, well, that looks, like that's not going to look good.
Questions.
And then let's say they take this into the season and Dame doesn't play. Like, I mean, without any first, what are you going to sell the fans to get in the seats? The whole year is going to be about their best player not wanting to be there. It's not going to be about the future of the organization. So there's so many layers to how screwed Portland is that I just think that when is this deal going to get done is an interesting question, because I think a lot of that depends on the hubris of Cronin. And I do think sooner rather than later. I'm shocked it's taken this long. I really thought last week we were going to get it done, but maybe by the end of the week or the end of next week. I don't see it lasting too much longer, I mean, because you're right. If Damian Lillard sits down for an interview, that's the most embarrassing thing that could happen to them.
And I'm gonna follow up, but first I'm gonna bring in the family of Fast Break, my man Justin Garfield. What's up, buddy?
What's up, guys?
Just missed you, man. Where in the world are you? Are you home or no?
Yep, I'm back home. Been all over recently, but I'm here.
Justin, we'll catch up. Obviously, with the Damian Lillard situation. Neil just kind of gave the perspective on the Portland front office, and I want to preface a little bit for you. The situation, I see it, and honestly, if Cronin would have traded Dame the moment this news out, or even before it came out, I think he would have come out on top, because he's trading superstar. We understand a place that he had to go. From perspective, he had two choices: whether I go through with this request, which it was a request. Then it became a demand. I go through with this request. I save face with him, and I save face with the relationship of other players because other players will see, look, Damian Lillard gave him 11 years. They came into agreement, kind of like the way people see Sam Presti with OKC. Westbrook wanted out. First of all, he traded for Paul George. Then he trades Paul George to the Clippers. After Westbrook wants out, he trades him to Houston. You see how people value Sam Presti as a GM around the league. And OKC is not a big market. It's not a huge market. Portland is not really a huge market. Like, you don't have free agents making decisions to go to Portland and sign as agents. You don't have people going to OKC. You have to acquire them via trade. You have to draft players there. So when I first came out, I'm like, okay, if I'm Cronin and I'm put in a situation, psychologically, I could take this two ways. Or I'm hurt by it, and I got to save face and try to get leverage. Today, you have teams that are working with you because this is going to end up being a 3 or 4 team trade. There's people that want Hero. I understand how everybody feels about Hero sometimes in the national media and even us local fans here, but Hero has value in this league. You can put Hero, any team that are dying to get Hero because they're going to get him cheaper than they would get him in the open market. And he has a favorable contract compared to what these rookie extensions are now. Like, Tyler Hero's contract for 4 years and $120 million is going to look much nicer than a 5-year, $240 million deal these kids are signing nowadays. So there's that situation. I'm like, you got teams willing to work with you. Now to a point where you don't want to talk about it. You mentioned it, and Justin, I want to get your feedback on that. Neil mentioned the fact that this is already over. It just, Cronin is in the I don't know if he's not in the acceptance stage yet of grief. He might be coming to grips with certain things, but he's not in the acceptance stage to fully go with it. So, Justin, timeline, situation, how do you think this ends up?
It ends up with Damian on the Heat, plain and simple. Somehow, he's gonna get there.
Do you think this is gonna drag out? Or is it in the best interest of Cronin and the Blazers front office? Because the Heat's front office, we have a reputation. We have our culture. We have our respect around the league. And we remember, people don't see this. But when you're behind the curtain, you understand the importance that agents have. Relationship with agents is what gets you certain players across the board. So when do you think this gets done? Is it right now, before training camp, or this drags into the season?
I'll give it a month. I don't think this is going to happen immediately because there's still stuff they have to work through. And like you said, they're going to have to get 3-4 teams involved in total to get Hero because that doesn't fit the timeline for where Portland is right now, starting over with Scoots and Shaden Sharp and those guys. So I expect it to happen maybe mid-August, late August to the very latest. But I don't think it goes like James Harden style 1 week before the season. If it does, though, that'd be very interesting.
And we're going to touch a few topics because obviously we saw some summer league players. We have some still pending free agents. Even Jamal Cain. Jamal Cain's a restricted free agent. He might get a standard contract. The Heat offered a 2-way. So there's some situations there that there is communication, obviously, with the Heat front office and agents for these players that possibly are going to be part of Miami's rotation. Obviously, we already signed Thomas Bryant. We signed Jay Rich. We re-signed Kevin Love. You see the growth in Jovic. You see, obviously, the possibilities and the maturity in Jaime. You see the tenacity with Bouger. So you have rotational pieces. Now, it comes into play. Do I think the relationship with Tyler Hero is repairable if this trade falters? No. Do I think this trade is going to falter, like you mentioned, Justin? No. I just think it's a matter of time. What impresses me the most, what baffles me, I want to say this. Sometimes these deals take long because there's no team that is willing to work with you, and you need a third and the fourth team. In this case, that's not what's going on. The teams that are willing to work with you are more anxious to work with you than the team that you're initially trying to get your player from. Obviously, you're extracting Damian Lillard for half the price. But unfortunately, it's what happened to your asset. Like I kind of think of it as like if you get a mortgage, right? You buy a house, you get a mortgage, the market falls the next day. Your mortgage is not going to go down. You still owe the bank that set amount the next month. Now the neighbor next to you is going to get the same house that you just bought for 200 grand cheaper. Unfortunately, that's the way the market goes. And the Blazers are in that situation. You have an asset that, yes, he's older. He's still in his prime because he still had one of the most efficient seasons. But the pill that you have to drink is he doesn't want to go anywhere else. And the last 2 years of his contract is 60 million plus a year. There is no franchise on earth that will trade for that unless they have 100% security that Damian Lillard wants to play for them. So if you guys, you, Neil, you, Justin, and me, we can talk about this. You know they're talking about this in the Blazers front office. So they're just delaying it. But like you mentioned, I do think this might be done by August. It could be early August or mid-August because it reaches a point where this is just bad PR. And when you're a small market team like Portland is, you can see this. And I don't know if psychologically you might be able to see this. I like to, maybe if I'm Cronin, I kind of imagine Damian Lillard walking away as a free agent. The reason I say this is because I get the cap relief because I really want. I'm going to get 4 first-round picks. I'm going to get 3 first-round pick swaps. I just drafted Scoot Henderson. I have Simmons. I have now the part I am upset about is that I just re-signed Grant. I just signed Jeremy Grant to a 5-year, like $160 million deal. I wouldn't have done that if I know Damian Lillard's not coming back. So that might be also part of the holdup here. Or maybe Portland is trying to get Miami to take Nurkic's contract. More contracts being moved. So we'll see how this plays out. Obviously, we'll be in tune.
Well, the Shams tweet that came out today or yesterday was kind of interesting because it was the Blazers for the first time publicly saying, "Hey, Miami, give us your best offer," which makes me think that this is going to happen sooner rather than later because now at least they're acknowledging that Miami's it, and they want to, I guess, try to publicly put out there that Miami is giving them their best offer, to try and say
they're negotiating.
So, like, I actually think that the Shams tweet today really did accelerate things for me because they went to the table, because before they weren't even there. So,
you know what also might be, Neil? They're trying to save. They're trying not to lose anything that's being traded for them. Because, like you said, one thing that is interesting to me, I do think Miami is going to keep Jovic and Jaime. I don't think they're going to be part of the deal. I think they might dangle Caleb because Caleb is eligible to re-sign next year. They might dangle him. Obviously, if they don't move Kyle in this deal, I do think there's a subsequent move pending the Dame deal, or maybe you keep him into in season and you trade him before the deadline. But I do see there's follow-up moves, and
for sure.
I even think they try to keep Robinson. If you move Lowry and Hero, they might try to keep Robinson. Now, if you keep Lowry, you're moving Robinson and Hero automatically because of salaries. It has to match up. So they're going to be gone either way. Now, if you're taking back other contracts, you might have even a situation where I was telling Bobby yesterday on 10th Street, I'm like, I'll be intrigued to see if the Clippers somehow and the Sixers get involved in this deal and somehow Kyle ends up with the Sixers and obviously James Harden goes to the Clippers. Clippers probably going to send 2 or 3 contracts to match up because I don't think they're going to trade Paul George or Kawhi. So it's very interesting to see, and these are the conversations that are happening. But given case, Neil, I'll throw it to you, and Justin, you can respond. This deal doesn't go through. We're in training camp. The season starts. Dame is still a member of the Blazers. You got Tyler Hero. You guys know how I feel about Tyler Hero and the growth that he has as a player, the fit that he has here. One nonsense that I was hearing today is like, oh, Miami fell back no matter what this year. I'm like, even if we don't acquire a Dame Lillard, Miami with Jaime and Jovic approving Butler, another year of Bam, like certain situations, the pickup of Josh Richardson, Thomas Bryant, this team is not AFC realistically if there's no injuries. But if you acquire Damian Lillard, you're automatically top of the food chain. You are a favorite in the East.
Well, I mean, I totally agree. We got Thomas Bryant is a big improvement. Is a much bigger improvement, I think, than a lot of people give him credit for. I mean, him coming off the bench for Bam.
Growth.
Yes, exactly. And then Duncan Robinson's growth, and then Caleb Williams' growth as well. You know, I mean, Caleb Martin's growth.
Caleb Martin, yeah.
You know, and how he's going to develop into a solid bench scorer or maybe even a starter at times. I think Tyler Hero, it's in his best interest to be a professional because he already kind of knows that he's, you know, on the outside of the bubble. So he needs to show improvement, and he needs to show good play. So other contending teams may want him unless he wants to end up on Detroit or somewhere or Orlando. You know?
there are some things, and Justin, I'll show it to you. He's gotten close with some of the Nets players. Obviously, he's been training with Simmons and all that here in Miami. Simmons also has a home here in Miami. A lot of NBA players have a home in Miami, so I don't look too much into that. But now there was rumors about Toronto. Toronto has to make a move, and I do believe they trade. I do.
Yeah, they're trading Siakam.
They're going to trade Siakam. I don't know.
They have to. Yeah.
So that situation, even Houston.
But see, that situation is going to get bad too.
Yes. Those are the things, and his job. There was some reports today about Masai's job not being as secure as it once was.
No, because he's so hard. He's like Cronin, man. He's so hard.
And he's a tough negotiator, but he's not Riley yet. Those are the things that you won a championship because of Kawhi, and you made that move, but you need to have some subsequent move. And Justin, I want to bring this up to you because I understand why they signed Van Vliet. I'm not a big fan of the Van Vliet contract for Houston because I feel that they had a youth movement. They might have expedited a little bit and gained some more roster maturity with Van Vliet. I don't think I got your response. How do you feel about what Houston has done? And you guys drafted Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore fell right to your lap. I saw him in Summer League, and that Houston is on the right path. Houston and OKC for the next 3 to 4 years, I want to see their battles in the West because I do believe they have every component. Jabari Smith's growth, Porter Jr.
Yeah, I like that guy a lot. That guy's good.
So, Justin, how do you feel? How do you feel Houston's come off this offseason? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Justin. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I'd like to apologize to Jabari Smith Jr. I was not very high on him during his rookie season, but Summer League, you're supposed to outplay all the players, and that's exactly what he did. So kudos to him. He got out of there after 2 games. Tari Eason as well. Got to give him credit.
Yes.
As far as the Van Vliet, I love that signing. And I'll tell you why they did it. It's because there's a minimum salary you have to spend. Houston was nowhere near that. So they had to give all that money to somebody. Fred Van Vliet just happened to be like, hey, he's the best guy on the market. He's somebody who we can count on to be a mentor for these guys. We know he's not going to be here forever. That's why it's a 3-year deal. And so they've got a guy in the waiting, Amon Thompson, who they just drafted. He can learn from him. And then I'm not a big fan of Dylan Brooks, but you had to give them money to somebody, and you need defense on this team. And if there's any silver lining here for, I guess, his sake and Houston's sake, Ime Udoka is a no-nonsense coach. I mean, unless there's a hot single woman in the building, but we're not going to talk about that. He's a no-nonsense coach who will hopefully put Dylan Brooks in his place, get his mind right. I don't know what's going on in Memphis. Taylor Jenkins seems to not have a grasp in that locker room.
No.
Dylan Brooks, everything that he did, and then, of course, Ja, and then the way that the Grizzlies just talk and talk and talk and don't bite. They don't win anything.
But I do believe the most important acquisition this offseason was Marcus Smart for the Grizzlies. Marcus Smart is going to provide that veteran leadership, that playoff experience, and that savviness. It's kind of like he's a smaller version of Draymond Green, in my opinion, when it comes to that locker room. You need to have a player like that. And all Memphis was missing was a young, rotational, veteran piece. So they have a very young team, but they didn't have any experience, where even Steven Adams was missing time. So you have a good nucleus there. But it's crazy to think how even for Memphis, their time could have come and gone because OKC is on the rise. Houston is on the rise. Obviously, San Antonio with Wembanyama, you're not going to win an insane amount of games, but there is going to be interest in the
They're
next
going to
few
win more
years.
than 30.
There's going to be improvements, I'll say, in San Antonio.
30.5 is a ridiculous line for San Antonio. I would bet the over on that for sure. I can't believe you got 30.5 is ridiculous. Like, I mean, that was wild.
Yeah, what kind of WAR is that? I don't know if they do WAR in basketball, wins above replacement, like they do in baseball, but one player boosting it. I think they won 22 games last year, 8 games in your rookie year. It's pretty impressive.
I mean, defensively, San Antonio is going to be great next year. I was watching, man, that they don't drive on him. They just don't drive on him.
No, and for example, Wembanyama, they're gonna try to get him off balance because he's very lanky. So you're gonna see him get crossed a lot of times just because of the physical aspect that he's so tall and lanky that he's gonna. I do expect him before the season to start. He's gonna put on some weight. He's gonna put on some muscle. He's a natural player. So
you're gonna load manage him.
No doubt.
They're gonna load manage him. They're not gonna play him.
Yeah.
Season. They're going to Pop.
Man, Pop, what you tell me about Pop? That man was a year away from retiring, and now he just signed a 5-year extension. I guarantee you.
So they can get him for the Supermax.
And
so they can get him for the Supermax, and then hopefully Pop has groomed someone he likes so that they can keep him there for another 4 years. I mean, I don't know if Wembanyama will be here more than 9 years, but I mean, that's the plan.
You know for sure.
He'll be in Miami after that, right?
Oh yeah, with Giannis, with Luka. Okay, man. Well, we're at the 32-minute mark. We're gonna wrap it apart in less than 10 minutes, but I want to get your take. One thing that has stood out to me, obviously, the national media has no idea how Miami Heat function because Miami Heat do not have connections with national media, national reporters. They try to keep things in very local reporters. So I love when people on ESPN sit on a panel and they start talking about what Miami Heat have lost. They gave Vincent and Max Strus, and we're missing out on all these free agents. Free agents to look for. For me, I do like the fact that Christian Wood is out there, Kelly Oubre is still out there. Mm-hmm. Those are possible signings, and there's still a few other ones. And you kind of Goran, another veteran. All these free agents, and I believe these agents also have these guys aren't signing until Dame is traded. So they're in August. Ideally, I know we have talked about Hero before, but what kind of pieces do you feel? Obviously, you acquire Dame. If I would have told you 2 to 3 years ago that we had the possibility to acquire Damian Lillard, and we would have Jimmy Butler still, Bam Adebayo, we wouldn't have to trade one of our young nucleus. We would just trade future first. You would have called me crazy. You're like, there's no way you're going to get Damian Lillard for that price. So I understand the importance of what one player saying, I want to go there and that's it. I understand that's in our favor. Now, what pieces do you feel we can put around them that are still available, and what growth do you see from within?
I think it's Goran. I mean, I really think Goran Dragic would be nice. He would remind me of the Gary Payton signing back in 2005. Okay.
Yes.
You know, like just get that 1 year, get that last ounce of Gary Payton left, make a finals run, that would be fine. Christian Wood is a little interesting for me because he's kind of he flashed a little bit and then he dropped off, and so I think that's why his market is a bit depressed. If you can get him on a team-friendly deal, I think that would be cool. But I just don't – the reason he hasn't been signed – like him not being signed up until this point gives me a lot of confidence that there's a chance we could get him. Yeah. Because, if there was no chance, he'd already be gone by now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the fact he's still around means maybe he is looking at Miami as like maybe a 1 or 2 year deal to kind of revive his stock a little bit so he can get another contract, because I think Christian Wood was already a bit older. than the
I believe
average.
he's 31. Is he 31? Oh no, 29 or 30?
29, exactly. So
29, right?
if he wants to get another contract, like
Absolutely.
another good contract, coming to the Miami Heat on a 1 year, 2 year deal with maybe a player option, would it be a good idea so that he can maybe get a double-digit contract, So that might be what he's trying to do, especially maybe he's got connections with Dame. Those two would be awesome. Kelly Oubre, he makes sense to me if we lose Duncan Robinson, because you are still going to need someone who can hit threes and play wing defense. And Duncan couldn't play wing defense, so Kelly actually might be a bit better if we can get him at a reasonable number. But I think having Christian Wood and Goran is enough for me, or Goran and Kelly Oubre. I don't think we need all three, just two of them. But we do need Goran because our point guard depth is not good. Because I agree with you, Lowry is going to be gone at some point this season, whether it's before the deadline or during the trade, or he's just another move that we end up making. But Lowry won't be on this team very long. I mean, there's no incentive for him to be.
And Justin, I want to get your point because, for example, when it comes to depth, I remember coming into last year, and I was confident that Max Strus was going to be a rotational player. I was confident Gabe Vincent. I was confident he should have been starting from the beginning of the season, but hurt when training camp came around, I believe. I was very confident Omer. I know the ankle injury delayed that, and now Omer signed with Utah. The growth, for example, that I've seen in Orlando Robinson, the confidence where you start playing around with lineups and you're like, wait a second, even if push comes to shove, I can still start Orlando Robinson next to Bam if I want to bring Thomas Bryant off the bench with Jovic if he's my backup four. Jovic could run the point as well. There's so much possibilities, and one intriguing mesh that we've never seen before. I love the Josh Richardson. The Josh Richardson signing supplements if you lose a Caleb Martin, if you lose even a Duncan Robinson also, and the mesh that he will play with Jimmy at times, because I believe Josh might even start if we acquire Dame. It could be Dame, Josh Richardson, Jimmy, Bam, Orlando, or if you get Wood, there's a combination there. Highsmith is another rotational piece that you still have if he's not moved. I think Josh Richardson is the perfect player to play next to Jimmy Butler. And we've never got to see it because we traded Josh as part of the Jimmy deal. So that's another, and we signed for a minimum deal, a 29-year-old Josh. Also, his relationship with Bam. This locker room seems to be, it has the design that obviously when you remove Hero, unfortunately due to the trade, he's going to be a part of it. The locker room seems that it's going to be a cohesive unit, and they believe in each other. So, Justin, from your perspective, all the pieces that we've added, obviously minimum deal, so it hasn't cost us an arm and a leg. We're still waiting for Dame. Is there anything that entices you from within or from the outside, just like Neil said, and any prime acquisition aside from Dame as well?
I think you mentioned it right there, and give Jovic some more minutes. He's got to grow. I know this is a contending team, but I expect him to take a bit of a leadership role going forward and start stepping up. How often is it that the Heat really keep and develop players that they draft? Because it's Miami, they're wanting to win at all costs. It seems like they bring in guys who just can play right away. So it'd be nice to see a guy like him who they drafted since day one and then actually take a good role as the point guard. Like we've seen that with Bam. He's an outlier. Hero as well. But then who's leading the team at the end of the day? Jimmy. Didn't draft him. He came from Philly, who came from Minnesota, who came from Chicago.
Yeah.
And Lowry
and
last year came from Toronto. Who came from Houston, who came from Memphis. Yeah, Miami's just one of those destination cities. But how long has it been since you've had a homegrown guy who you could really look to? D. Wade?
Yeah. And like you mentioned, Bam is the forefront. Bam is about to be the face, obviously, of the Heat post-Jimmy era. And Bam is on an ascension. And he's still going to continue. Do I feel people are going to call me crazy? I still feel that what this team has right now on paper, the way this team is on paper right now, is still better construction than last year because now you have two big can stretch the floor. And Thomas Bryant and Orlando Robinson. And Kevin Love. We're forgetting Kevin Love as well. Like, those aren't luxuries that we had last year. We knew going into the season, we're like, shit, we got Caleb Martin probably starting at the 4. We're gonna go really small. So, and obviously we were pleasantly surprised with Caleb. But for example, whenever you lose Caleb and you don't lose Hyman, Hyman is basically off the bench as well. He has a similar game set. Mid-range shot, great footwork. That's one thing that is very underrated. Super athletic, which I corrected myself because Bobby points out Hyman to me, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't look that athletic. I'm like, he looks a little bit more athletic than Max Strus. And then I keep seeing film on him, and I'm like, shit, was I wrong? This kid is really athletic. Like, he does everything. He can hit threes, he can slash, he can play defense, he can block. So I'm intrigued no matter how this plays out. I do think we're going to acquire Dame on a cheaper note. I don't think we're going to give up either Jovic or
I don't know.
Hyman.
I think we're going to keep them both.
And the longer it drags out, there's no reason. And Neil, you know what's frustrating the most? What frustrates the most, man, is when people on Twitter and they don't understand leverage. Like, if you don't understand value and leverage in the NBA, I can go to a trade machine and put any trade that makes sense cap-wise. But you got to understand the situation that you're in. People just see a name, Damian Lillard, and they're like, what? You're not going to acquire Damian Lillard for just first. I'm like, we might, man. We might be able to because he doesn't want to play where he's at. He wants to come here. He's 33 years old. We owe him $60 million. And when he's 36, no one's going to pay him $60 when he's 36.
No one's paying someone $240 million that doesn't want to be
there. So those are things that I do hope the next time we talk, this deal's done. Most likely it's not. It might be another 2 weeks.
I don't know, man. I think it will be.
Hey, man, everybody's waiting for that Woj bomb. I know Clutch is, and I know Clutch might be dripping right now. Miss you, man.
It's going to be Shams.
Huh?
It's going to be Shams.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be Woj.
I want to see, because it is true, man. Like, what Dan said about Woj and that, like,
it's totally true. He's a shill.
It's 100% true, man.
That's
the way he words things, and it's like, come on, dude. Like, you're laying out the track. I'm like, now, at the moment you're Chris Haynes little video clip of a Dame interview, that's when you know that shit's gonna hit the fan. That's when you know it's like, whoa, what are we doing here? So there's gonna be some pressure on Cronin. It just makes sense, man. Like, you check things out. You can be butthurt. You can be insulted. But it's a business. At the end of the day, you've told this guy you're going to build a winner around him.
I don't don't like the player empowerment era. I even though it largely benefits us, and it probably will benefit us in the foreseeable future, I don't really like it because I do think that players should honor the contracts. You know, I mean, generally, it does suck for small market teams, but this is the reality we live in, man. And you know what?
Kevin Durant just did.
It had something to do with it too.
Exactly. And look, in my argument there, like, I'm 50-50 on that because I always believe it's how you do it. Because at the end of the day, also, an organization, if they don't want you, they're going to trade you. They sign a contract with you, but you know you can be traded. So we understand the business side of it. That's why I always felt this way, and I was surprised. I remember talking to Bobby off air, and I'm like, I'll be very surprised if this is to the point where Dame goes public with this, because Dame looks to be a person that likes to handle things privately. Like, he'll meet with you. It seems to be that he likes to take care of his shit privately. Like, I expected this trade to go down in a private matter. I didn't expect it to go the KD route, the Kyrie route. The moment he came out and made that public, I'm like, okay, wait a second. This is strategic. This is Miami also. If he wants to come to Miami, Miami's like, the only way we could do this is if you demand us. That's it. And Pat Riley's always said it. It's been the MO. We just need a player to say he wants to come here. It happened with Jimmy. It's happening with Dame. It happened with Goran. People forget about Goran's exit from Phoenix. That shit got ugly real quick. It got really ugly real quick with the owner. So I understand it's the nature of the business, but I'm with you. There's an ethical part of this. And I'm kind of torn. Honestly, in this situation, I'm torn. Because I do believe, I try to compare it to the Donovan Mitchell situation last year, but that one was handled pretty well by Donovan because the Jazz were the ones that were kind of like in rebuild mode. So it wasn't like he demanded a trade.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I
he
mean,
was,
now that makes
so
sense for both sides. But I
yeah,
mean, I just think that, you know, I think that the reason why I don't like the player empowerment era so much is that players sign the contracts with eyes wide
hmm
open. Okay, the team owes you nothing more than the money. That's
of
all.
course,
That's what I believe. They don't owe you anything more than the money. Okay,
yeah,
like should they build a winner around you and care about you in that respect? Maybe, but what they really owe you is the money. And
yeah,
so if you're gonna start getting, as long as they're paying you, you should agree to that. You should abide by the terms of the contract. Now, if they stop paying you, then yeah, do whatever
yeah.
you want. But if they're paying you, you know,
Now, Neil, for example, in this case with Damian Lillard, and this is not because he wants to come to Miami, kind of
yeah,
like the same situation. And I'm not even going to compare to Kyrie and Kevin because Kyrie missed some time. AD signed that contract with the Nets when he was injured. The Nets gave him that contract, and he sat out a year. Respect
yeah,
that. But when I see this case with Damian, I'm like, they've talked about this for 2 to 3 years, and he has given them opportunities, and they've told
yeah.
them
But Damian shouldn't have signed the contract. He should have been like,
ex-
"Hey, this
that
organization
is
is doing shit for me. Let me go." Like
that
he
is my
shouldn't have signed
part.
the contract.
That is my part. I'm like, did he sign the contract thinking that Portland was going to make moves? Did they promise him that they were going to make moves, or did he just sign the contract? Because at a certain point, I know it's money, but at a certain point, certain athletes don't need the money in that regards. I mean, you're still going to get $200 something million,
I mean,
but
I
you don't
agree
need
with
to
you
sign a
that let's say
contract.
Portland was like, "Hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to make this a
That's my
winner."
only part.
We sold him, and then they
Yeah,
didn't know doing it. But I don't see. I don't know if those. We don't know if those conversations
we
happened.
don't know. Of course,
It's
we only
actually
see
quite
actions.
likely they really did it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like really
we
being
only
honest.
see actions. For example,
Yeah.
you draft Scoot Henderson because you're not going to pass up on Scoot Henderson. What
No, you
position does
shouldn't.
Scoot
He's
Henderson
great.
play? Scoot
Yeah.
Henderson plays the position that Damian Lillard plays. I mean, the
Yeah.
writing's on the wall. You have a young team. You've been rebuilding for 2 years. It's like, wait a second. Like, what am I doing here? But like I said, I'm always born with that. I understand both sides, but if it comes to a repairable relationship, there's no point to continue to drag this down, man. Like, cut your
Oh,
corners, and
totally. I mean,
unfortunately, it's the nature.
at this point, it's gotten really bad. Like the
It's
moment that I mean, yeah, I think it's in Portland's best interest to move on, but I lament. I feel bad for small market teams, because
absolutely.
they just don't really have much of a chance of keeping big mega stars
Yeah,
past
you have to be
9
just
years.
smart. You gotta be smart with your picks. You gotta have a good developmental
And then
team.
they could give the supermax to a player, and then the player
Oh,
in 2 years could just want to get out of there, and it's like,
yeah, but and it's
Mhm.
crazy because we've seen it. When was the last time it happened with kind of like you get a rookie max extension and you ask to be traded? It's only really happened with Mitchell last year with the Jazz.
yeah.
Has there been any rookie extension that has been signed that a player has been traded?
Anthony Davis
Who?
signed the supermax. Did AD?
AD signed the supermax,
AD
but he got
had
traded the last year of his deal.
Okay.
He
Okay.
got traded the last year of his deal. I mean, Ben Simmons signed it, but Philadelphia wanted to trade him. Obviously, they want to get rid of him.
that's not a small
So
market at all.
that's not a small market at all.
No,
So,
Philly's not a small market.
Yeah,
They're
so
like a
those,
mid market now, but they're not a
how would
small
we
market.
consider Philadelphia like a mid? Well,
Philadelphia is
I-
like the 5th largest market in the country.
for sports. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
Is
I
market
think it's
number one
right
New York?
behind Houston. New York's still
Or
number 1, and then LA, then
LA?
Chicago, then Houston, and then Philadelphia.
Chicago's up there as a big market.
Chicago's still the 3rd largest city. Yeah,
Wow.
Chicago's a large market, yeah, for sure, no question.
yeah.
Holy
San
crap!
Francisco might be up there too.
Yeah, it's funny because Miami, people have this image of us, a big market. We're an
didn't used
attractive
to be that
market
way.
more than a market. We're like, what ranking are we, Justin? Are we like in the mid tier or in the top 10?
I want to say Miami's in the like 8-9 range, but I'm looking it up right
Okay.
now.
Okay. Let
I
me, 'cause
remember
I know
in 04, 05, we were not a big
we were
market.
not. I mean, Shaq's move was a side.
Not even. Miami is number 18. And
See?
actually, I'm
That's-
wrong. Philadelphia, as of 2022, 2023, is number 4. Houston is down to 7.
Because I always feel Miami is a sexy, attractive market for players. and it's always going to be that.
It has international appeal. It's boosted its media
Yes.
market.
And everybody who moved there during COVID, can't forget.
And you also have a lot of New York Northeast transplants in Miami, and so that also boosts its market a lot too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And like you mentioned, people don't see that the foreign influence here, like the melting pot city that we are.
Yeah, that might happen to San
massive.
Antonio though. Like with Wembanyama, San Antonio might get a massive boost because of the international market that's going to flood this city.
I didn't ask you about this.
Too.
But
what's that?
I didn't ask you. I mean, go ahead. Sorry, Justin. I interrupted you, man.
I know. I was just going to say Houston had the same thing with Yao Ming, and the Chinese community all love the Rockets for that reason.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. And
so what were you going to ask?
Well, I didn't ask you. I'm like, because I know we didn't talk. I don't think we talked about the after you won the draft. In our group, we messaged. How do you feel about the French connection? Because that seemed to fall all in perfect place in the fact that he comes to it that Tony Parker played for, Boris Diaw played for. You have the international setup, a team also in the need of an international superstar. Some San Antonio ahead of the curve with Manu Ginobili. It had the most multicultural team in the NBA at that time. Well, I want to say Sacramento, but it was mostly obviously European players. Like Vladi, Peja Stojakovic, Hito Turkoglu. So it was like that Middle Eastern influence. But how do you feel? Like, I understand it was kind of a little story when it happened, but has anybody really brought that up? Like how do we? I understand you had the percentage chance, so it's legal. But I'm like, isn't it crazy how the fact that you get Wembanyama when you need him the most?
To be honest with you, I think it's a little too convenient, personally.
Too convenient? Kind of like Cleveland with LeBron?
I'm a massive Spurs hater, so I'm pretty biased when it comes to anything San Antonio Spurs. But I will say I felt it was a little too convenient. Okay, and I will say this: there's no French places here. There's nothing here. Like there's like a French restaurant, and I've never been to it. You know what I mean? I don't even know where it is. We know this city really well. You know, like really I know there's this French spot and I don't know where it is and I don't want to go there. You know, like I'll say this,
Does Tim Duncan still live here?
Yeah, he lives here. They all live here, dude. They're all like
Manu lives here. Everybody lives there.
They're all here, dude. They're all
live in the same street.
They all live on the north side of San Antonio up there in the Dominion or in there's this other big neighborhood up there in the north side, and they just do their little HEB commercials every now and then. It's so annoying. No, I'll say this, okay? You know, I felt it was a little convenient, but Wembanyama is going to make a huge difference here. They're already starting to talk about getting a new stadium here when the
a new arena. I was hearing
stadium.
that. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're already starting to getting a new stadium when the lease on the current AT&T Center expires. And I think they're trying to accelerate the expiration on that lease. They want to build a downtown stadium because San Antonio politics is really weird.
Okay.
The current stadium is they used to play in the Alamo Dome, which is downtown. But Tim Duncan, in order for him to sign his contract after his rookie deal, he was like, "We got to get the hell out of there." So then they built the AT&T Center, which they couldn't find cheap land downtown, so they built it like in a very poor area that's surrounded by nothing. So there's nothing nice around the AT&T Center. It's just surrounded by all these little, really crappy little gang houses. Like, I mean, it's in a really dodgy area of town.
Yeah.
And so, but then there's this big AT&T Center stadium, which they just recently renovated. But now they want to get they need to put a stadium downtown for sure, because there's so many restaurants downtown that could boost the economy there, you know, because the only thing now is you go to the game and you go home and you have to deal with terrible traffic and then you try not to get robbed on your way back. So like, I'm serious. It's in a really bad part of town. So
that's crazy to me because I remember I had a coworker a long time ago. I was from Philadelphia, and he was telling me how all the sports teams, their home floors were in downtown. So like you had Lincoln Field, I think it was Lincoln Financial Field at the time. You had
Yeah.
the Watsco
Oh,
Center.
I was in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and literally all three of them are in the same parking lot right on the freeway.
That is
it's like
so
right
cool,
on the
man.
highway.
And it's
That is
outside
so
of downtown. It's near the airport. It's a very odd space. So I see why the Sixers are looking to go downtown. I don't think everybody in Philly is for it, though.
Wow. That's and
Well,
you know
in
it's crazy. We
Seattle,
almost had
Stadium
it
is in
here.
the heart of downtown Seattle. It's like the link is right there, you know. And then you look at Miami's the AAA is always referred as the AAA, where
Yeah.
it's right there on Biscayne, like right there on the water. You know,
Meanwhile,
They
the
were gonna
Dolphins are all the
build.
way up in Miami Gardens.
Yeah, that's well. The Dolphins moved like when they went away from the Orange Bowl. There was always obviously the talk about Huizenga wanted to make it into an American community, so they kept on going north. The Panthers completely went into Sunrise. So when they were doing the Marlins Stadium, when they were going to build the Marlins Stadium, it was meant to be built in Bicycle Park, which is now where the Frost Science Museum is. Like they put the planetarium there. That land was empty, and it was going to be Marlins Ballpark right next to the Heat Arena, where they were going to design left field was going to be like right field in the Giants ballpark, where the ball went into the bay, and it would have been easy. Then that didn't happen. Obviously, they built the Marlins ballpark in the Orange Bowl site, demolished the Orange Bowl, build Marlins ballpark there, and they were going to build the Inter Miami Stadium in the inlet right there next to the arena. It was almost done, and the owners voted against it. The commissioners voted against it, and now they're going to build Freedom Park in a golf course that's right by the airport. They're going to demolish that whole golf course, and the Inter Miami are going to build Freedom Park there.
That's
They're
cool.
going to rent the land, but it's our three major sports. Our arenas literally right off 836. All right, Justin, take care, man.
You guys.
I will say this, I will say this about the Dolphin Stadium. I mean, you do have to drive through Opa-laka. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
So that's I
I'm
mean,
telling you, man.
I can't talk too much about the Spurs, I guess, because you do have to cut through some really bad.
You got to cut through. But now what they've done there, since the Dolphins put their headquarters in the lot before they used to go to Nova, and they would train in Nova and had their facilities in Nova. Now, obviously, Dolphins have their offices and their practice facilities right around spot.
Right there.
That whole area. That whole area is being redone. Like the way the way that's growing from within. Obviously, it's a rough part of the neighborhood, but it's it's funny because because I'm from here and I'm from Hialeah, which is right on the corner of like.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends in Hialeah. Hialeah is not bad. Hialeah is not bad.
It's not bad, especially if you're on the west side and on the east side, you get closer to like when you cross the train tracks. And you got Liberty City, you got
Liberty City.
So those are the things that I've never had any issues with at all because I'm from here. But I can understand how an out-of-towner could come in and they're like, wait a second, where's the stadium? In the middle of Miami Gardens? They're like, oh, shit. Like, yeah. And you can't walk. You got to put a little further away, man. You got to walk.
The thing that I hate about the Dolphin Stadium, because it's gotten a lot better. I mean, I remember going when it was Landshark. And I just recently went for I know Landshark was boo-boo. But
do you remember? Did you go to Marlins game, Neil?
I went to the Marlins game at the old stadium, not the new one.
At Pro Player Stadium, which was Dolphin Stadium.
Yes.
So you remember the scorching heat sitting in the upper
you couldn't, dude. That's why people didn't go to the games. I mean, yes, ownership sucks and the team was what it was, but like, dude, it's just too hot. Like I went to a game in the fall in September at Landshark, and I was just cooking up there.
Yeah,
like
and
just
we would get day games. We wouldn't get night games. You would pray for rain. You would pray for rain.
You'd pray. But now the stadium is badass. I went to the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday night game.
That's true.
That was an amazing experience.
They've
definitely changed everything. I mean, I'm going to the Titans Monday night game in December 11th.
Oh yeah,
can't wait.
Oh man, let me see if we can get some tickets here. Let's see if we're here in Miami, right? They're playing.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Monday night against the Titans. I'm gonna be there, dude.
Oh man, let me see.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, I'm putting out there. That is when when we win that game, we will be first in our division, and we might be vying for the top of the AFC.
Woo!
That game That's why I
Yeah.
picked that game because I
I've
was
been
like,
saying it, man. People,
that
network,
game.
everybody in FTSN, they don't listen to me. They don't listen to me. I'm a basketball player. I'm a basketball coach. I'm the host of a basketball show. So they listen to my NFL takes. People don't understand. The Dolphins this year were legit, man.
Everyone's
We
coming
are
around.
legit.
They're all joining the
Telling you.
table, man. I put $100 on the Dolphins to win the Super Bowl, and I put
Uh-huh.
$100 on the Heat to win the NBA championship. And
Uh-huh.
if both of those things happen, I make like $5,000, I think. So,
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
dude,
I hope they have you just for that alone.
dude, I would die if we did it, dude.
Neil, first and foremost, I know in the beginning, but everybody tuning in, thank you so much. Remember to like, share, subscribe, constant content. Neil, I've missed you whenever you're available. I know you're a busy man. Whenever you're available, as an original member of the Goon Squad, you always have an open slot to come in here. And
Thanks,
if
man.
one day you can, on 10th Street Boys, we would love to have you too so we can talk. What I was talking about yesterday, what's cool about that, 10th Street show has kind of become the introduction to the personnel of the network, so we get to know people, we get to talk to them, because here we're just giving our takes, but people don't know who we are. So it's always fun to have you. Much love, man. And final prediction that I'm going to ask you: when does Damian Lillard get traded to the Heat?
Dude, I think it's going to be within the next 2 weeks. I really do.
Okay. So by the first week of August.
By the first week
All
before
right.
August, I think it's happening. I think it's going to happen.
Perfect, man. Hey, for everybody tuning in, thank you so much. Tune in live next week when hopefully Damian Lillard's a member of the Heat. But if not, we still got one more week for prediction to come through. So Miami, much love like always. Heat Nation, hands up, go Marlins. We've been, by the way, the Marlins. We've been on a little losing streak. You kind of see that break coming. That's why sometimes you don't want that All-Star break because we were hot. But now the trade deadline comes. So now we'll see what we're cooking. All right, Neil, thank you so much, man. Much love. Good night, Miami. Peace out.
See you, man. Good night, everybody.